I'm glad I gave up on my dreams as a professional musician, and I never expected it to be the thing that saved me. Saying that out loud feels a little rebellious because we're taught that giving up is failure. That if you're really passionate and really committed, you would have found a way to make it work. But the truth is, I didn't give up on music. I gave up on a version of it that was costing me myself. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ellen, a certified life coach, a singer, a mother, and a lover of alliteration, dogs, and deep conversation. And this is the Contentment Creator channel, the show designed especially for creative entrepreneurs to dig deep to clarify your life vision, catalyze your creative flow, and fuel your entrepreneurial fire. So if you want to talk about building a life that actually feels like yours, please subscribe for more. This week's episode is a little different than our usual deep dive because I'm sharing a topic deeply personal to me, and I know to many of my listeners: giving up on our dreams. There was a moment, I remember it so vividly, when I auditioned for the Metropolitan Opera competition. And if you've been in that world, you know this is the thing you train for, the thing that validates everything you've worked for. And I didn't win. And what surprised me wasn't just the disappointment, it was how deeply it shook me. Because underneath it, there was this quiet realization: oh, this isn't about music anymore. This is about being chosen, being approved of, being enough. And somewhere along the way, my love for music had been replaced by my need to be validated for it. And that didn't happen overnight. It was conditioned. I had a teacher who was honestly manipulative and emotionally abusive. And what she rewarded, what she praised, was control, technique, precision. And what she tolerated was my artistry, expression, emotion, interpretation, the very things that made me me. And slowly I learned that if I want to be good, if I want to be accepted, I needed to prioritize the version of me that was palatable. So I did. I became hyper-focused on technique, on getting it right, on being impressive. And piece by piece, I abandoned the part of me that actually loved music. And this is what I've come to believe. In the pursuit of excellence, it's often expected, sometimes even encouraged, that we abandon parts of ourselves to get there. Not explicitly, no one says it that clearly, but it's in the subtle cues. What gets praised, what gets corrected, what gets ignored. And over time, excellence stops being about devotion to your craft and starts becoming distance from yourself. We don't just learn how to be excellent. We learn what parts of us are allowed to exist. And here's the part that feels the most honest for me now. I'm not sad that I didn't make it. I'm relieved because I'm free. I'm free from trying to hold on to something that no longer felt true to me. I'm free from building a life fueled by people pleasing. I'm free from performing someone else's definition of success. I'm free to love music again. And honestly, the dreams I have now, my new idea of making it, feel more expansive and true to my heart and grounded in a richer, more full life perspective. And the surprising part of it is that I didn't find that freedom by pushing harder. I found it by letting go. So now I'm picking up a guitar as a beginner, which is humbling and uncomfortable and confronting in its own way. Because all these patterns are still there. The perfectionism, the pressure, the voice that says you should already be better than this. I'm singing in genres I love for myself. I have my sights set on new kinds of performing, new kinds of creating. But something is different now. There's more space, more curiosity, more permission. And I think that's what I'm reclaiming. Not music as a career, but music as a relationship. So if you've ever walked away from something that you once loved, not because you didn't care enough, but because it started to cost you too much, I just want to offer you this. We're all failing our way forward in one way or another. Failing is required for all success that we seek. It's like endings and beginnings. They are one and the same. But What I hope that you hear in this message is that if you choose to leave one path for another in order to choose you, the success you will find on the other side far outweighs the feeling of failure you may grapple with. And maybe what you gave up wasn't your dream, as in the thing that you seek to become or do, but rather the version of it that required you to leave yourself behind. And there's every possibility that with some space and time, you'll find your way back to it, not as who you were, but as who you are now. If this resonated, just sit with this question today. Where in your life have you been taught that excellence requires you to abandon yourself? And what might it look like to choose yourself again? At some point, I stopped making music and started trying to get it right. And I didn't notice it when it was happening because from the outside, it looked like progress. More discipline, more refinement, more excellence. But something quieter was slipping away. I remember being at a crossroads, a literal two paths converged moment. I was being considered for the role of Maureen in Rent, and I was also selected as the classical alto soloist in a requiem. I went to the practice room more in that month than I had in years to sing Take Me or Leave Me. I fully saw myself in that role. I played and experimented with vocal colors to choose from. I loved the way my voice sounded when I embodied that character. The music was a way to channel a piece of me, and I was all in. And then I told my voice teacher at the time about it, and she, in no uncertain terms, told me no. She said going down this path would steer me away from the successes that I sought. She said that it would delay my progress in my classical training, and it would confuse future auditioning panels and not communicate the right message about my voice. The list went on and on for why I shouldn't do it. She never once asked me if I wanted to do it, and she never heard me sing the song, Take Me or Leave Me. She just said no. I lost sleep that week trying to decide what to do, reject the advice of my teacher and mentor, or choose where my heart called me to go. I chose what my teacher wanted for me. And that was the beginning of the end of play and music for me. The first time I ignored my gut, my desires, led to a second, and a third, and 1,000 times, until I'd built a career and even a voice that didn't feel like mine. I lost play somewhere along the way and started just trying to get it right. Music stopped being a vehicle for self-expression, for self-exploration, and became someone I performed. So often, mastery looks like this. We're guided and mentored to change or correct our path towards someone else's vision for us, towards the path. And slowly, almost invisibly, we trade curiosity for correctness. And the most dangerous part is it feels like growth while it's happening. We stop asking what feels true and start asking what will be approved. And here's the part that's hard to name when you're in it. Mastery in its distorted form doesn't feel like expansion. It feels like contraction, like monitoring yourself, evaluating yourself. And when mastery stops looking like wonder, curiosity, what lights up your nervous system in the best way, and starts looking more like calculating, strategizing, and overriding who you are, that is where mastery costs too much. And we see this pattern not just in music, but everywhere, even at the highest levels. Take Alyssa Liu. She was a prodigy, a champion, one of the youngest elite figure skaters in the world. From the outside, she had everything: talent, recognition, success. And then she walked away at the height of her career. And what she shared was so simple and so profound. She wasn't enjoying it anymore. The pressure, the expectations, the structure of the sport had taken something from her. So she chose to step away. Not because she couldn't do it, but because she wanted to feel like herself again. And then something really interesting happened. She returned to skating later, and she chose to do it differently. More relaxed, more expressive, more herself. And then she won the gold medal at the Olympics. She found success again, but this time it wasn't coming at the cost of her joy. I saw so much of myself in her story. And I think that's the question this leaves us with. Because mastery itself isn't the problem. Devotion isn't the problem. Growth isn't the problem. When the path to getting better requires you to override your instincts, silence your curiosity, and disconnect from what feels alive, that's not mastery, that's performance. Real mastery, the kind that sustains you, has to include play. It has to include self trust. It has to include your voice. And maybe that looks like experimenting again. Maybe it looks like doing something off the path. Maybe it looks like choosing what lights you up, even if it doesn't make sense on paper. Because the moment you stop playing, you might still be improving, but you're no longer relating to what you love. So, when was the last time you felt playful in something you love? Not productive, not impressive, playful. And what was different about how you were showing up in that moment? Because what if play isn't something you earn after you get better, but something you have to protect while you're getting there? I think one of the most confusing emotions that we can experience is grief over something that we chose to leave. Because we expect grief to follow loss that happens to us, not loss we participated in, not loss we decided. There are still moments where I grieve the dream that I outgrew. I have what if spirals. I revisit decisions that I made and wonder, did I leave too soon? Did I not try hard enough? Did I give up on something that could have worked? I catch myself playing the blame game, especially against myself. There's a version of the story where I'm the one who failed, the one who didn't follow through, the one who couldn't make it happen. And then there's the shame, the quiet narrative that whispers, you settled. You chose a smaller life. You walked away from something big. And underneath all of that, there's something softer, more honest. I miss singing. I miss performing. I miss the version of me who lived in that world. And maybe even deeper than that, I grieve the part of me that I left behind in order to survive it. I grieve the years that I spent disconnected from myself, the decisions that I made that pulled me further away from my voice while thinking that I was getting closer to it. I grieve the life I thought that I would live. I grieve the feeling that I thought that I would have when I got there. I kept thinking, oh, I'll finally feel like I've made it when ... That was one of the biggest motivators to keep going for me, was chasing that feeling that I thought success would give me. Because the truth is, even when I was succeeding, I didn't feel the way that I thought I would. And that's where this gets really layered, because at the exact same time, I feel relief. I feel clarity. I feel like I saved myself from going further down a path that didn't fit me anymore, or maybe never did. And holding both of these things at once, the grief and the relief, is disorienting. But it's also true. Sometimes clarity doesn't feel like peace. Sometimes it feels like grief. This actually reminds me so much of Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. What struck me most about her story was the duality, how something can be the source of your identity and your harm, your love and your grief. And I think that's what we don't talk about enough. We all want clean endings, clear narratives. I left and now everything's better. But real life doesn't work like that. Sometimes the most honest thing we can say is, I'm so glad that I chose differently. And also, I miss what I left behind. Both can be true, and neither one cancels the other out. And maybe part of healing is allowing yourself to feel both without rushing to resolve it, without needing to turn your grief into a lesson, without needing to justify your choice, without needing to make yourself right. Just letting it be what it is. And if you're in this space right now, where there's a lot coming up and not a lot of clarity yet, this is actually why I created one of my free guides. It's not about fixing anything. It's just a place to land, a place to process what's real for you without rushing yourself into another decision. So if you want something to go a little deeper inward after this, I'll link it in the show notes for you. It's called Growth Without Burnout, and I know you'll get something out of it for yourself. So, in this season where you're grieving something that you chose to leave, a version of yourself, a dream, a path you once believed in, I just want to offer you this. Your grief doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It means that it mattered to you. And you're allowed to honor that without going back. Instead of asking yourself if you made the right choice, what if you asked, what am I still carrying from that chapter that needs to be felt, not fixed? Comment below, what would letting go of the what ifs make space for you to feel? When something in your life stops working, we tend to jump to extremes. Stay and suffer, or leave and start over. Push through, or burn it all down. But what I've been learning, both through my own experience and through coaching everyone from independent artists and entrepreneurs to CEOs of $100 million companies, is that there are so many more options available to us than we often let ourselves see. Sometimes the problem isn't the path itself. It's the conditions we're operating under. Instead of asking, do I quit or not? A more honest question might be, what do I need to change for this to actually feel like it works for me? I like to think of this as redefining your conditions of satisfaction. Most people don't need a new life. They need permission to live the one they already have differently. If you were to stay on your current path, what would be non-negotiable for you to feel fulfilled? More creative freedom? More rest? More autonomy? More self-expression? And what have you been tolerating that no longer feels aligned? Because sometimes the shift isn't in what you do. It's in what you say yes to and what you finally allow yourself to say no to. Maybe it looks like saying no to opportunities that don't feel true anymore. Saying yes to projects that light something up in you, even if they don't make sense. Maybe it looks like creating something on the side, so the thing you love doesn't carry all of the pressure. Maybe it looks like adjusting your hours, your expectations, your pace, so your life actually has some space for you inside it. And maybe, yes, for some of you, it will mean leaving. But that doesn't have to be the only option. It doesn't have to be the first option. And if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, I know something needs to change, I just don't know what that looks like yet. This is exactly what I walk you through in one of my free resources called CEO Capacity Creator. It helps you get really clear on what actually matters to you right now, where your energy is going, and what boundaries or shifts would support you in building something that feels aligned, not just impressive. So if you want a place to start, I'll link that for you in the show notes too. A little look into my story is that I didn't leave opera all at once. I left in 100 small choices. For years, I did this work that we're talking about. I redefined and reinvented what my career would look like. I said no to gigs. I stopped auditioning for the whole circuit of who I should sing for at that stage in my career. And I just focused on building a network and community that I enjoyed working with. I planted roots in New York City and stopped auditioning outside of the city. I became a go-to for many companies that I sang for instead of just another application in the pile for other companies. I built a thriving and balanced performance schedule that fit me, as well as other streams of income that fulfilled other parts of me. It wasn't through a huge decision or change that I made, but rather 101% shifts, following hunches to explore new opportunities, listening to my gut when something did or didn't feel right, continuing to stay open to a new vision and version of what my career could look like. That was really working up until the pandemic hit and a year of my contracts were canceled. It was totally outside of my control, but what I realized during that time of change and reflection was ultimately that I didn't miss opera. I didn't want it like I used to. It wasn't my dream anymore. I could have kept doing what I was doing, and I believe it would have been fine. But when different opportunities presented themselves in light of a new world post-pandemic, I continued practicing what I'd been doing, saying yes to what felt right, saying no to what didn't, making 1% shifts all along the way, And the fact is that that led me away from opera and led me to where I am today, with a beautiful growing family in a home that I love, with professional and creative freedom, as well as financial success, and a life still filled with music, but in a different way. My creative spirit didn't die. It's alive and well and has found all sorts of new outlets that I never would have expected: interior design, painting, content creation, and lately has been leading me back to performing. The beautiful thing is that now I'm in a healthier relationship with music where I don't need it to make me happy. I am happy, and music adds to my life. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about quitting or staying. It's about whether your life feels like it belongs to you, not a life that you're performing, not a life that you're enduring. And that can be built in more ways than one. So if you're in that space right now where something isn't working anymore, but you're not sure what comes next, I offer you this. You don't have to make a dramatic decision to make an aligned one. You can start small, more honestly, more intentionally. You can begin by asking, "Eh, whoop." You can begin by asking, where do I feel better? What would feel better from here? If nothing about your path had to change overnight, but you could change the way you engage with it starting today, what's one shift that would make it feel more like yours again? And if you're open to sharing, I'd be honored to read your answers in the comments. And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode on the Contentment Creator channel, where we looked at what it's really like to quit on our dreams or examine what it would take to stay with it. Whether you caught the whole episode or one of our segments, either way, thank you for making it all the way to the end, and I hope you are subscribed so you don't miss another episode. Join me in my mission to turn a world full of content creators into a world of contentment creators. Bye, y'all.